Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a fascinating story of exploration, confusion, and a single world-changing idea. We're going to talk about the New World, a term we use so casually today, but one that was revolutionary in its time. And no, it wasn't Christopher Columbus who coined it. The story really begins with Columbus's voyages. In 1492, he sailed west from Spain, convinced he could find a new, faster route to the rich lands of Asia. When he landed in the Caribbean, he was absolutely certain he had reached the outskirts of the East Indies. He called the native people Indians because, in his mind, he was near India. He made 4 voyages in total, and to his dying day, he held on to this belief. He would describe the vibrant parrots, the unfamiliar plants, and the gold trinkets, all through the lens of someone who thought they were just off the coast of China or Japan. He was looking for the great khans and the spice markets Marco Polo had written about, but instead, he found something entirely different, yet he couldn't see it for what it was. This steadfast belief, this fundamental misunderstanding, set the stage for one of history's greatest mix-ups. The maps of the time showed Europe, Africa, and Asia. There was no room for another continent, especially not one blocking the way to the riches of the East. So, for years after Columbus's first voyage, European explorers and cartographers were in a state of confusion. They had these new coastlines to add to their maps, but they didn't know how they fit. Was this a series of islands off the coast of Asia? Was it a previously unknown peninsula of the Asian continent? The pieces just didn't add up. The coastline seemed to stretch on endlessly, north and south, in a way that didn't match any known description of Asia. The plants, the animals, the people, they were all profoundly different from what was expected. The puzzle was getting more and more complex with every ship that returned. Enter a man named Amerigo Vespucci. Vespucci was an Italian explorer, navigator, and merchant from Florence. Like Columbus, he sailed across the Atlantic multiple times around the turn of the 16th century. But unlike Columbus, Vespucci had a different, more analytical perspective. He wasn't just a ship captain. He was a keen observer and a brilliant navigator. He meticulously documented the stars, the coastlines, and everything he saw as he traveled down the coast of what we now call South America. He started to notice things that just didn't align with the idea that this was Asia. The length of the coastline was immense, far greater than any known Asian peninsula. He observed the unique constellations in the southern hemisphere, realizing he was much farther south than any part of Asia was thought to extend. He documented cultures and environments that had no parallel in the accounts of Marco Polo or other travelers to the east. It was in a series of famous letters, published between 1502 and 1504, that Vespucci laid out his radical theory. He argued that these lands were not Asia at all. They were something entirely new, something the ancients had no knowledge of. He proposed that this was a mundus novus, a Latin phrase meaning new world. This was a groundbreaking, almost heretical idea. It challenged centuries of established geography and cosmology. To declare a fourth continent was to redraw the map of the entire world, both literally and figuratively. It meant that the world was much larger and more complex than anyone in Europe had ever imagined. Vespucci's letters became sensational bestsellers, spreading like wildfire across Europe, thanks to the newly invented printing press. For the first time, the public was presented with a coherent and compelling argument that these were not the shores of Asia. but an entirely separate landmass. The idea captured the imagination of a German cartographer named Martin Waldseemler. He and his scholarly group were working on a new, updated map of the world in 1507, deeply impressed by Vespucci's accounts and his bold conclusion. Waldseemler decided to honor the man who he believed had truly discovered this new continent's identity. On his monumental world map, he printed the name America across the southern landmass, a Latinized feminine version of Amerigo. He wrote in the accompanying book, "I see no reason why anyone should justly object to calling this part America, after Amerigo, its discoverer, a man of great ability." Initially, the name only referred to South America, but as explorers mapped out the northern continent, the name America was eventually applied to the entire hemisphere. It's one of history's greatest ironies. The continents were named not for the man who first arrived, but for the man who first understood what he was seeing. Even after Vespucci's theory gained traction and the name America began appearing on maps, the confusion didn't end overnight. Old beliefs die hard. For decades, continued to refer to the Americas as the Indies. The Spanish crown officially called its American territories the viceroyalty of the Indies for centuries. This created a dual identity for the continents. On one hand, they were America, the New World. On the other, they were still the West Indies, a ghost of Columbus's original mistake. This overlap in terminology reflects the slow, difficult process of accepting a new reality. It took generations for the European mindset to fully shift and embrace the existence of two vast continents that had been lying in wait, completely unknown to them, across the Atlantic. It was a gradual dawning of a new age, an age of global interaction that all started with one man looking at a coastline and daring to say, "This isn't Asia, this is something new." So, the next time you hear the term New World or see the name America on a map, remember the incredible story behind it. It's a tale of a persistent mistake, a brilliant insight, and a cartographic decision that shaped our perception of the globe forever. It reminds us that discovery isn't just about being the first to arrive somewhere. It's also about being the first to understand what you found. The world is full of such fascinating historical footnotes that completely change how we see things. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical journey today. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.